I didn't think I was gonna get a video out this week. It's just such a busy week for us. We are preparing for our fair and my kids are in 4-H. They show hogs in the fair, so that's a huge week for us where I'm hardly home. Gosh, what else have we had? We've had summer camps this past week. We've just had a lot going on, so I didn't think I was gonna have time to get a video out, but you know, the little ones are napping and the kids are outside helping John do some stuff around the farm, so I've got my camera out and we're just gonna see if we can make this thing happen. I wanted to do a follow-up on last week's video where we talked all about healing your gut health, and like, you know, what I'm eating and my journey to heal my gut, especially because I'm breastfeeding. And it is more specific when you're pregnant or breastfeeding. You definitely, in my opinion, want to take a gentler approach. You don't want to be doing some crazy diet that's you know, super restrictive, like carnivore, for example, that's going to cause you a lot of like really harsh detox and die-off symptoms. At least, like I said, this is all my opinion. I'm never here to knock somebody who's done something and achieved great health. So just to put that out there, because, you know, people can get funny when it comes to diet, nutrition, health, and fitness. That's why I kind of like to stay away from these topics, because you get like the health police officers. They work online, they're health police officers, and if somebody achieves health using a method that they don't use or they do something they don't agree with, they attack that person and say, oh, you're doing it wrong. Like, I know you've cleared up all your symptoms and healed all of your chronic diseases and your added quality of life and years to your life, but you didn't do it how I would have done it, so you're wrong. I don't like the health police. They get on my nerves. So that's why I just don't talk about this stuff a lot. And when I do talk about it, I especially don't like to say that I'm doing any certain type of diet, because I know I'll get told you're doing it wrong. When in reality, I've done this before. Like, I've had underlying autoimmune stuff my whole life, like very sick as a child, chronic allergies, asthma, all the things. Like, I did allergy shots for years, was just constantly sick. Like, I know. And then in my early 20s, I healed myself. I healed my gut. And I had fabulous health for years, and I was in great shape. I maintained a healthy weight effortlessly and like was very lean. So I've actually done it. But I know about the internet police who can tell you, oh, you're doing it wrong. And I just don't like that. But if I had to say, you know, my personal method of gut healing, if it's like the closest to an actual diet, it would be the GAPS diet. So GAPS, if you're not sure what that is, it stands for Gut and Psychology Syndrome. You can buy the book. I actually listed it in the reference section under last week's video. I listed some books that I would recommend. Not that I agree with everything in each of the books, but I think they all have helpful elements. And one of the books I listed was, oh my goodness, this is healthy. I'm freeze drying bone broth. That's what I'm doing here as I talk to you guys, multitasking. Like I said, I have a rare window of time where the little ones are asleep, so I'm just trying to get some stuff done. But yeah, I recommended the book Gut and Psychology Syndrome by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. It's the same stuff we've been talking about. Heal the gut, heal all the other things. I'm not saying you can regrow an arm. You guys know that. I'm not saying that we can heal every single thing, but when it comes to chronic conditions, usually you can greatly improve symptoms or heal them altogether by addressing gut health. So my method is closest to the GAPS diet. Go check that out if you are interested in that. Go get the book. It is such an amazing resource. Okay, so I've got my phone here with a little note that I made. I'm a big fan of alliteration. It helps me remember things. So when I'm thinking about gut health and what I did in the past and what I'm doing now, there's like 7 steps. I'm gonna walk through these really quickly with you guys just to summarize everything kind of hopefully really neatly that we talked about last week. And hopefully I'll get this in a blog post as well. So the first step, and we're gonna use R's, all R's for all of our 7 steps. So the first step is recognizing the problem. If you are a person who has been maybe overweight your whole life or had autoimmune issues your whole life, or you just had chronic symptoms your whole life, it's really easy to think that's normal. Or even if you know that there's a problem, you've never been healthy, so you're not sure what it feels like to live in a healthy state. It just all feels foreign to you. But I think the first thing you can do along this journey is really just put pen to paper or just do a note in your phone and write down all of your symptoms, all of the things that you know these really aren't normal things, but you deal with them all the time. Maybe it's acne or eczema, something, skin psoriasis, something with your skin. Maybe it's chronic fatigue. Maybe it's chronic pain, unexplained pain, which fibromyalgia. Maybe it's joint pain, swelling, inflammation. Maybe it is mental disorders like crazy mood swings or mom rage, or I'm speaking to things in the childbearing season because that's like, what I'm talking about this is for moms. Just anything. And it could be weight. Like I said in last week's video, we don't like talking about weight as women, but that's crazy. Our weight is one of our vital signs. Body composition is important. We need to know like how much of that is excess fat and how much of it's muscle, but weight is our weight's a really important number. It needs to be within a healthy range. So if you've always struggled with your weight, well, that is a chronic symptom that something is not right. And all of these things can be addressed by looking at gut health. So do that first, recognize the problem, really take some time and write down all of your symptoms. It would take me a long time to go through like all of the possible symptoms, but you live in your body and you know what you deal with on a day-to-day basis. I would also write down your vital signs. One that is so important that I talk about a lot that doesn't get any attention is temperature. Our temperature, especially during the childbearing season, tells such an important story about our general health. A woman's temperature should never be below 97 degrees Fahrenheit. If it is, that indicates a hypoactive thyroid. Even if your labs look okay, it could be subclinical or it could be that it's autoimmune, and so it's not showing up on like your normal TSH or the normal labs that they're running. And you can have your antibodies tested, or you can just take your temperature. That's a lot less invasive, it's a lot less costly, and it's a lot more accurate. If you have a cold body, things aren't working right. Your metabolism is slow. Your thyroid has slowed down. And cold bodies are dying bodies. So if you have a cold body, you probably are on your way or already have insulin resistance too, and your A1C is probably high, because our hemoglobin A1C is, it's not just telling us like our risk for being diabetic or if we're diabetic, it's also a really good marker of aging. So if your A1C is above 5, you're aging faster than you should be. So take your temperature. If you have any lab values, if you have that A1C, write that all down. Write your vital signs down. Weigh yourself. I have a smart scale that I absolutely love. I'm usually a really low-tech person, but I love this smart scale. It syncs to my phone, and it's so accurate. I'm really familiar with body composition numbers because I did in my earlier 20s kind of like get really into weightlifting and bodybuilding. I never did like bodybuilding competitions by any means, but I just learned how all of that worked. And so I can tell that this scale is accurate because I can look in the mirror and say, I know I have, like I can see I would guess about this much body fat. Yeah, I can guess my body composition. So I'll link my smart scale. It's like 23 bucks, but it is amazing. It's one of my favorite tools. So write down all of your metrics, your symptoms, your vital signs, your weight, take your measurements, because our waist size that tells an important story too. Your waist as a woman in proportion to your hips. Your waist should be a lot smaller than your hip size, and if it's not, if you have kind of like a, square shape or an apple shape, then that is telling the story that you have excess visceral fat and inflammation, and you probably are insulin resistant as well. So take your measurements, write all this down under step 1, recognizing the problem. Then we're going to move on to step 2 of gut healing, and that is removing and restricting things. So some things you might totally want to remove from your life, like as much as possible. I know, we can't be perfect, but processed foods, that's something that we should try to remove just as much as possible. We should not be eating like packaged junk. We all know that, but then putting that into practice is really hard. I know it's hard, but we should just try to do that. We should try to remove all those things, especially if you were like in the middle of an autoimmune flare-up and you're in a health crisis. Then you actually need to be really strict with removing things. You need to be really strict on removing processed food, artificial, anything. Remove all that from your diet, and while you're at it, if you want to remove that from like your things you're putting on your skin and your body care, toothpaste, all the other things too, just go for it. I'm the type of person who I go all in. And you know, over the years, I used to be insanely crunchy. Like on Instagram, the account really very crunchy. That was me, like laughable crunchy. And I just let a lot of things slip over the years. But a couple months ago, when I started going into this postpartum autoimmune flare, made my mind up I was gonna heal and get myself out of it. I'm like, I'm going back to a lot of my crunchy ways. So I got rid of a lot of stuff. Like I'm back to just the no shampoo method with my hair. You don't have to go that extreme. When you're gut healing, it does, all the things do make a difference, but the main thing is like what you're putting in your mouth, what you're eating. Focus on that. That is number one. Remove all of the artificial things from your diet. Artificial sweeteners, artificial dyes, remove all of that. The next part is the elimination diet part. We talked about that last week. Go back and watch last week's video if you want to know more about elimination dieting, but it's basically taking one food group at a time and testing it out to see if that's problematic for you. So grains, that's a big one. Test that out. Remove that, eliminate that from your diet for a week or two. And if you see a lot of symptoms clear up and you're dropping weight and feeling a lot more energy, then that was a trigger for you. That's something that you need to restrict from your diet until later on when you're healed and you can reintroduce it the right way. And make your way through different food groups if you are having like really bad chronic symptoms until they resolve. So dairy can be problematic, eggs can be problematic. These aren't bad foods. They can just be problematic to people who have an unhealthy gut. It's when you have imbalance in your gut, it's usually SIBO or SIFO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or small intestinal fungal overgrowth, and a lot of times it's both. Now you may be wondering, well, how do I know? Like, if I have chronic symptoms, but I'm not having any abdominal pain after eating certain things, or it's really hard for me to pinpoint my symptoms, how do I know what foods to eliminate from my diet? So this is where you could just go to a protocol that's like laid out for you, really strict with lots of rules and to-dos and to-don'ts, like the GAPS diet or carnivore or something. But there's also something else, something that I just learned about. I just got it. It was a little bit pricey, but I'm just really excited about the future of medicine or the future of health with this device. It is actually a breath testing device. It was invented by a doctor whose wife had food sensitivities, and basically you breathe into this little device and it connects via Bluetooth to your phone. I'm going to take a quick break to tell you about one of my favorite places to shop for clothes as a mom who is always breastfeeding, pregnant, both, or just somewhere in the in-between seasons. New Flora Wardrobe. I absolutely love New Flora. You know, I've always loved the idea of having a capsule wardrobe. And, you know, I have a lot of talents, but piecing together clothing items that look cohesive and that build on each other and like where all the textures and fabrics go together, that's just not my thing. Like, I've tried it and I'm not good at it. I'll find individual pieces I like, but then when I get them home and get them all in my closet, it's just like nothing really goes together. So this truly does take an eye. It's a special talent that, like I said, I just don't have. And then add the, you know, needing things to be pregnancy and breastfeeding friendly element on top of that, and it's just a lot. So many times I would end up just standing in front of my closet. I've got all these clothes, but nothing that I really, really love. So about 2 years ago, when I first heard of New Flora, I knew that this was going to be absolutely perfect for me. This was going to be just what I needed to slowly take my time and, you know, swap things out and build an intentional capsule wardrobe. What I love about New Flora is that they release a small curated capsule collection every month with soft, feminine colors that, you know, are easily found in nature, and each monthly collection or monthly capsule builds on all of the previous capsules, so that, you know, if I just get like one piece a month from New Flora's latest release, I know that that piece will go really well with maybe like a sweater that I bought 3 or 4 months ago from New Flora. So here we are 2 years later, and I've done that. Every month I get myself just a little something from New Flora's, you know, latest release, and I would say now probably over 75% of my wardrobe is a New Flora wardrobe, and I have no plans to change that, because the dresses that I wore when I was pregnant, I can still wear now and I can nurse in them and they still fit me great. If you are looking to put together a feminine, cohesive capsule wardrobe, then you have to try New Flora. They gave me a discount code to share with all of you. It's Hopewell10. So use Hopewell10 on any purchase from New Flora site-wide, and you can save that code, and it's good at any time, and you'll get 10% off your purchase. I will put my link in the description for you guys, so just tap the more button below the video, and then you'll see my link with more details. And this device measures the amount of hydrogen and methane in your breath to tell you which foods are triggering you while you are in the process of healing your gut. It is such an awesome device, and it's something that you can, once you buy it, you own it, you can use it. This is not a paid promotion, by the way. I just am really excited about this. Once you buy it, you own it, you can use it over and over and over again to monitor your gut health, and you can actually use it for your whole family, not just yourself. So I will link that. It's the Food Marble device, breath testing device. I'll link that if you're the type of person who feels so overwhelmed, but you really think that you might have some food intolerance or some things that are preventing you from healing your gut and you just don't know what to eat and you want answers. This device could give you answers. So that's the remove part. You need to remove processed food and junk from your diet when you want to heal your gut, and then you need to try eliminating food groups to see what are triggers for you. That way, yeah, you're not constantly triggering your gut. Now, there are some foods that you don't necessarily need to remove, but you probably want to restrict. So especially with fungal overgrowth, sweet tooth is really, really common because fungal overgrowth, it wants to feed on like high starchy, high sugar foods. So people, if you have a chronic sweet tooth, and I'm not talking about just like you like a sweet treat every now and then, or you enjoy sweets. I'm talking about you think about it a lot, and you're binging on sweet or overeating sweet stuff all the time. It's kind of all you think about. That's a huge sign of fungal overgrowth. So in that case, you really, anytime you're healing your gut, you really need to cut back on the added sugar. I am not saying like you can't have a little drizzle of honey in your morning coffee or something, but you need to keep it at that. You need to really restrict that or cut it out altogether to allow your gut time to heal. So that is step 2, removing certain things, restricting others, and that leads into step 3, which is the rest and recover phase. Your gut, when you're in such a bad place of having overgrowth and you have damage to the mucosa, you have leaky gut. So you essentially have endotoxin like leaking out into your bloodstream, going to all parts of your body and causing like a massive inflammatory autoimmune response at all times. Just like a small version of sepsis is what you have going on all the time, and you have leaky gut. I wrote about this in a few of my blog posts, so I'll link them. But when you have that going on and you remove trigger foods and you start eating nutritious, like easy to digest things, you just need to give yourself time for your gut to recover. You need to rest. This is not a time to say, oh, well, I cut out, grains, or I cut out dairy, and now, I'm not having chronic abdominal pain or chronic pain, so now I'm gonna immediately hit the gym and start like doing these crazy workouts and get super fit. I would strongly recommend allowing yourself a recovery phase. I'm not telling you like how long this has to be, but I can tell you for me, it's going to be, I need to be feeling like completely symptom-free for a few months before I would think about getting in the gym and really pushing myself and exerting myself. And one way to know this, I guess you could try it, because working out should actually feel good. I'm not saying it shouldn't be hard or it shouldn't be challenging, but you should feel like energized before you work out, and during your workout, and afterwards. You should feel pretty good about it. If you are working out and you're feeling like you're gonna die, something's wrong. You need to stop and go back to that resting and recovery phase. Or like after a workout, if you are so drained, you just feel like you took 10 steps backwards in your healing journey, it's time to step back and just rest and recover. I'm not saying to be sedentary though. You do need to still be active, and for that, I just recommend walking. Walking is so great. In fact, I have a friend who recently posted on Instagram that she got a like old school pedometer. So I got one too, and I just keep it in my pocket. It doesn't connect to my phone or anything, but I kind of like that. I don't want anything Bluetooth like on my body at all times, and I don't want to carry my phone around at all times. But I've got this little pedometer that I've just been keeping in my pocket, so that's a great way to track your steps. It's like a light way to stay active and stay moving while you're in that resting and recovery phase. That way you don't slide into the ditch of just being sedentary, and then you don't, your circulation is suffering, and it's just two ends of the extreme ends of the spectrum. One, you're pushing yourself too hard, and the other, you're not moving enough. Another thing that I really like as far as movement during the rest and recovery phase is jumping. Now, I understand that jumping, like for a mom, especially if you're breastfeeding or pregnant, jump rope or jumping jacks might sound a little intense. That's what I prefer. Might sound a little intense, but look into rebounding. Like the little tiny trampolines that you get and you put in your house, and you just, it's very minimal effort, but it is so great. I would say it's like actually crucial for lymphatic support. Jumping is one of the best things you can do while you are in that rest and recovery phase and your body's detoxing. You want to keep your detox pathways open. So it's a great way to do that. Okay, that leads us into step 4, which is restore and repair. So we're gonna restore species of beneficial microbes that should be in our microbiome but that are missing. We're going to restore those and work on repairing our gut that way. And we do that with fermented foods. We've talked about fermented foods. You all know how important they are. But in the gut healing process, that's actually not something that you should introduce right away. You want to do the elimination portion of your healing process first. So eliminate your trigger foods and just really get into that resting phase where you're not having as many chronic symptoms anymore because you've eliminated trigger foods, you've cut out all the processed foods. Let your body rest for just a bit, give it a week or two of resting and like actually feeling pretty good. The brain fog, watch the brain fog go away and everything. And then when you're thinking clearly, you can start thinking about adding back in fermented foods. Basic home ferments like milk, kefir, or sauerkraut. That's going to be great. That we should be consuming fermented foods daily. But something that I'm doing, this time around with healing my gut that I didn't do the last time because I wasn't aware, is I'm doing more targeted fermentation with specific strains of beneficial bacteria that are known as like keystone strains of bacteria that are essential for the basic functions of human life. So I am making, which I told you guys, we made it last week, I told you about it, it's SIBO yogurt. That's one of the things that I'm making. And I got the recipe for this yogurt from Dr. William Davis's book, Super Gut. I've been eating the yogurt for several weeks now because I'm 2 months into this gut healing process. So I did the elimination, like kind of rested for a couple weeks, added in the targeted ferments to, restore different strains of bacteria into my microbiome and help with my healing that way. And I am seeing just amazing results from this SIBO yogurt. I have lost 12 pounds in the last 2 months, so I am now 10 pounds below my pre-pregnancy weight, which never happened. And this is after baby number 5. After baby number 4, I was never able to get below 175 pounds. Well, I'm 4 months postpartum and I'm at 165 now, and I'm not restricting calories. I'm not starving myself. When I'm hungry, I eat. I eat the foods that are nourishing and they're not trigger foods to me right now. I'm getting plenty of protein, plenty of good fiber. I told you guys last week what I was eating, but the weight is just falling off and it's effortless. In fact, I actually just had to order new shorts because I had gotten new shorts and now the new shorts don't fit because I'm still losing weight. They're just like, I don't know if you can see because I can't really see the camera, but my clothes are falling off of me. So there is that, but that kind of needed to happen. I knew I needed to lose a little bit of weight. So that is the 4th step, is to restore keystone microbes back into your microbiome because we're just in a bad way. We are a people in a very bad way when it comes to health because of our modern lifestyle, whether it's the processed food, whether it's the stuff that they spray on all of the crops or that they're injecting into the, the mRNA vaccines they're injecting into livestock now, or even just the fact that many of us were not born vaginally, we weren't breastfed, we were given vaccines, we had a ton of antibiotics. I think the average person by adulthood has had like over 30 courses of antibiotics. So because of all of these things, our microbiomes need a lot of love. They need a lot of work. One of the strains of bacteria included in the SIBO yogurt, which is Lactobacillus reuteri, is highly susceptible to amoxicillin. For example, that's just like one example. You know, if you had one course of amoxicillin, well, then that strain was completely wiped out of your gut. Or maybe you never had it, but maybe your mom or your grandma had amoxicillin, and so that wiped that out of their gut. And then you know, as a mother, when you give birth, even if you give birth vaginally, you can't pass on strains of bacteria that you don't have. So our babies get their microbiome from us. That's vaginal birth is so important for many reasons, but that's one of the reasons. But you know, yeah, we can't pass on what we don't have. So yeah, we're very deficient in these keystone microbes. So that's step 4, reintroduce ferments, and you know, expect a little bit of die-off when you do that, a little bit of detox, because that's when you're really going, when you introduce like targeted ferments, you are really going to be pushing back that overgrowth. And yeah, it's going to fight back. It's going to start dying off, and you might have a lot of symptoms like rear their ugly head. I actually just talked to a friend who's in this process, going through it with me. We're like on the same timeline, and we actually had babies born not that far apart, so just very similar seasons. And you know, she was feeling so great, like making so much progress. And she introduced she's using a targeted probiotic capsule, and she broke out in hives. And she kind of panicked, and we were talking back and forth. And when she told me she had introduced the targeted probiotic, I was like, oh, well, this is die-off. This is classic die-off reaction, which I'll link a little bit more about what to expect with die-off in the description for you guys as well, because it can be a little bit scary if you like break out in a rash, or you start having night sweats or something, and you almost feel like you're going backwards. Well, you're not going backwards. That actually means you're going in the right direction and that the probiotics are working. Not everybody will experience something, you know, as extreme as like really bad hives or anything. Everybody goes through it a little bit differently, but yeah, I'll link a little bit more information so you know what to expect. So let's talk about our next step, which is step 5. Okay, step 5 is to reintroduce. So you're going to reintroduce whole foods that you took out back in step 2 when we did an elimination diet. You know, maybe you eliminated grains, you eliminated dairy, or whatever you found out was causing you problems, whatever was a trigger for you. The goal with gut healing, unless you are somebody who has like something like celiac, where you can never have wheat again or something like that. If that's you, you know who you are. You know I'm not talking about that. But the goal with gut healing is to be able to reintroduce foods that were once triggers for you, whole foods that is. We shouldn't be reintroducing like gummy bears as a regular staple in our diet. You guys know what I'm talking about. But if dairy was a trigger, you want to get to a point to where your gut is healed and you can reintroduce that, and you can have like all the delicious raw cheeses and raw milk, and you know, you can have a good like loaf of whole grain bread, but it's going to take some time. I just can't you know, I've been getting this a lot, like how long should I cut grains? How long should I cut out dairy? I can't tell you that. That is something that only you can know, and it really is, in my experience, like a trial and error type of thing. The only way that you're gonna know if you can reintroduce something into your diet is by trying. And you know, you might have to try for a week or so. And if you reintroduce grains, for example, and you're preparing them the right way, you're fresh milling your grains and maybe making sourdough, but a week later you are back to having chronic bloat or just chronic symptoms, or even like you put on 5 pounds in a week, well, then you reintroduce that too early. You'll know that you'll just have to back off of that. I do think that the breath testing device could be helpful here, because you can have like tangible results. You can eat something and then test your breath after you eat it to see if it's producing a reaction. So that's an option as well, but this really is going to have to be trial and error. I just can't tell you guys how long you have to cut something out of your diet. You're gonna have to try it and see how it goes. Okay, we got 2 more steps here. Step number 6 is to rebuild and rearrange. This is the really fun part, in my opinion. This is all about body composition. So this is where you actually get to start exercising and build muscle, which is not, I know, you know, a lot of my audience is Christian women, and we get weird about this, right? We think it's always vanity when we think about exercise or fitness, but it's not. It's actually really important for quality of life and for being able to fulfill our duties as a wife and a mom. Like, all of us want to be able to say yes to our kids when they want us to come outside and play, or when they want us to take them to the pool, or have like a long day out and about with the family. And you know, Lord willing, I know you all probably feel the same way. I want to be able to say yes as a grandma too. So it's really important to take care of our physical health, not just with what we're eating, but with staying active as well. And working out can actually be really fun if you don't feel like garbage every day. I know that's hard to imagine if you are just have been chronically ill for so long. You're like, I can barely get out of bed in the morning. How am I going to work out? But you can get there. If you do these other steps, you can get to the point where you can work on your body composition. But building muscle is also going to increase your metabolism around the clock. So when you put on muscle, you're going to burn more calories even when you're at rest, which just makes everything so much easier. You're not having to run like 5 miles to burn calories. Your body is constantly using what you're putting in it to make energy and keeping you at a nice healthy weight and body composition. So that leads us into the last step, which is just retaining what you've done by healing your gut and adjusting your body composition. Because it's really easy to get to a point, I'm telling you, this is what happened to me. You get to a point to where you're healed and you enjoy like effortlessly great health. You feel invincible. You feel like, oh, well, you know, I can eat whatever I want and I'll stay at the same weight. I'm not going to get sick. Nothing bad's going to happen. I've been healthy for so long. What could possibly go wrong? Don't do that. Don't do that. That's what I did. I thought, what could possibly go wrong if I just let a few things slip and don't try so hard anymore? Well, what could go wrong is I ended up back in a state of like constant underlying autoimmune problems and with autoimmune flares. So don't do that. Like, retain your gut health by keeping your healthy habits. Okay, well, I need to wrap this up because my camera's getting ready to die and the babies are probably getting ready to wake up, but I got it done. I got it done. So please drop your questions in the comments if you have any more questions about what we talked about this week, and then go back and watch last week's video where I talked specifically and I showed specifically like what I'm eating in a day, and I gave you a few recipes. Yeah, go back and watch that. And if you want to watch like me talk about more of what not to do by getting yourself in a really bad place postpartum, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago I posted about that. So I'll link all those videos for you guys, but I need to wrap it up. So once again, leave a comment if you have a question. Otherwise, I will see you next week.